I am Diana Rachel, the voice behind The Spirited Witch, Practical Living for Spooky People. And I am here to do my one card draw for the community. So, whether that's Substack community, world community, and so on. And so I always pregame a little so you don't have to sit there watching me shuffle. And what I pulled today, and I decided to switch to a different deck from my usual, is I'm using the Urban Tarot, which is actually the deck that I use for my personal stuff. The Tarot of the Spirit is the one that I usually use for clients. So today I just felt like it was a good day for the Urban Tarot. And so what I pulled was Nine of Coins inverted. Gain inverted would be the way it's labeled since it is loosely inspired by the Thoth Tarot. One of the reasons I like this is that this particular deck so much is it is very well interpreted to modern life, especially the court cards. It really does line up in a really accurate way. So for the week going into September is Gain inverted, Nine of Coins inverted. So typically Nine of Coins in the Coleman Smith or even in this deck is usually about personal attainment, personal satisfaction, personal personal wealth, having built for yourself. So whatever's going on in the zeitgeist this week, it's going to be more losses or more of a struggle getting to that. So I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones is definitely the theme song for the week. Things are going to feel kind of unsatisfying. It doesn't seem like much of a jump to say that, especially given, so I'm based in the US, I'm in Southwest Michigan. So a lot of what I read does have a US community bias, and this may apply other places in the world since I know people from elsewhere do watch this. But this means that the grocery prices are probably going to hit the completely non-sustainable points. It does seem likely that we are going to see, like I've already seen in some of my high yield bank accounts where there has been a drop in the interest rates that the bank has been able to pay. Things like this, where it's just that little bit less, it's just that little bit more work to get those things for your personal alignment that you've been trying to do. And that means on a larger side of the thing, you're probably going to see larger community projects suffer from a lot of not quiets, suffer from a lot of we need a revote. And there's just, okay, so sometimes I will hear voices. I have my own spirit cat peanut gallery. Yes, I have been checked by a therapist. Apparently, the way I hear voices is not the way that you need to hear it to be medicated for, especially since I am otherwise a reasonably functional human being. But I just heard something say this is spelling the end of rugged individualism, which is a very American value, and it's always been a wildly unsustainable and American falsehood, to be honest. Is the entire concept of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps was intended as a joke in the 1930s because you literally can't do that. You fall over on your tuchus at best. And usually there's injury when you try. But the reality is the greater the accomplishment, the more likely there was a whole team of people behind the person being given the credit. There isn't actually succeeding alone. And a lot of the Nine of Coins is very much about the what you have on your own, what you have done on your own. And even though it may be one person enjoying that wealth, there was usually somebody at home to wash the dishes and make sure bugs didn't take over your kitchen, somebody who was actually tending the garden and making sure y'all had food, somebody who was doing the labor on the production line so you could have that car, because I know Michigan's very much a union state, so everything is done or thought of as a team effect. And whether it's better or worse, it is the way forward. And I feel like this coming up inverted is a really, really big call to that. So I'm an introvert. I am not always fond of people, and I always hated group projects in college. But it is time to find our way to the people we enjoy the group projects with, because this is the way we survive. This is the way we sustain. It is also about learning to find abundance without necessarily having it be controlled by the ebb and flow of money. And there are lots of ways to do that, but it does take a big shift in thinking. So when we are looking at shifting our understanding, one, of abundance to something that can be shared, that is unlimited, where we don't have to look at resources as something to fight over. It can be things like in the US, because of mass production, most of us have an abundance of stuff. And while it may be complete crap to us, it's probably good for other people. So this is where trading comes from. This is where taking things to thrift stores or shopping at thrift stores comes from. I think even when I haven't needed to do it, I almost always shop all of my furniture used. It is looking for free things to do or coming up with free things to do that build community. Book clubs are super easy, usually. Um, you know, book clubs, going for walks in the park. For people with disabilities, you may have to get a little more creative or even have we're going to wheel the park and do something very similar to what bikers do with critical mass, but with other modes of transportation for people with different abilities. So again, this is the big shift in thinking. And I see some people are joining, and I tend to do these pretty quick. So for people that just join me, I do always, as best I can within a day or two, post the video of this in my Substack with a write-up about the cards. And it is usually open and free to the public. So if you want to look at how I usually do these so you can get a feel for it, go right ahead. I encourage that because, more people in my Substack, good. And tonight I'm counting it as the beginning of the month for my own convenience, is I do have the Run the Spirited Witch Patreon, and I do a 3-card draw every Monday for that. The live tonight after 9 p.m. will be available to the public. So if people want to drop in and check out how I do that, and it allows a little more freedom of interaction than this because I can actually chat with you all when I do that or have my laptop up while I've got my iPad up recording this. So if you want to check out the Spirited Witch Patreon tonight or check out the Substack files if you're new to this. But just a quick recap again is the card for the week is 9 of Coins inverted. So this is personal material loss or not. When tarot cards are inverted, it's almost never as black and white as some people want to interpret it. And especially when it comes to things like coins or like things with earth and water tend to have more ebb and flow than you'd expect. You'd expect no flow at all with earth, but if you've lived anywhere with sand or where earthquakes happen, you realize real quick that earth can be liquid when it wants to be. And it kind of feels like this, where there is going to be a little bit of a range. And so it is a call to step out of the rugged individualism that's really been holding most people back. But it is also things aren't going to hit the targets you want. Things are going to cost more than you want. And there are probably going to be things happening where you are not gaining or you are not able to attain the individual wealth or abundance that you did. And so it's a call to shift gears in how you think about abundance and how you look at resources and look at what you have plenty of and do everything you can to try to think about it creatively and differently. Another way you might look at that, and granted, I am really not happy with this particular social media platform, but Pinterest is a good way of thinking about things differently, especially if you look up things like upcycle or reuse or any craft projects. And I've been encouraging women to remind themselves not to be intimidated by home construction work when we have to DIY. It's just large scale arts and crafts. So taking these shifts, looking for these ways to shift thinking, looking for these ways to step out of the mainstream rich and poor black and whiteness, because it doesn't have to be that way. That's just the way we've been taught to think about it, will make a difference. So that's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me. I so appreciate it, and have a wonderful day. And hopefully whatever this is something where it's going to be relatively easy to pivot or something that you can see a way through. Stay magical, everyone.